The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on March 15th, 2022.
Aloha and welcome, Maui, to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Timpa, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to have a great show today. First, we're going to talk about what's going on at the legislative session and the first crossover of bills, resetting tourism's direction to mitigate negative impacts on each island, and learn more about the National Conference of State Legislators. We're also going to hear what's happening on Molokai Island, how businesses are surviving since the start of COVID, and what's in store for Molokai with current legislation and upcoming budget issues this session. And then we're going to speak with an account representative of People Ready and learn how they are trying to help with new job opportunities. But first, it's my pleasure to welcome Representative Scott Saiki, who is Speaker of the House of Representatives. Representative Saiki currently serves as the representative for House District 26, which includes the areas of Macaulay, Kaheka, Kaka'ako, and downtown. Since 2018 legislative session, Speaker Saiki, I think he was then representative, had taken on the leadership role as Speaker of the House. Prior to being elected to the House Speaker by his peers, Representative Saiki served as the House Majority Leader from 2013 to 2017. In August of 2019, Representative Saiki was named President-elect of the National Conference of State Legislators, which is a bipartisan organization serving the nation's 7,383 state lawmakers and more than 20,000 legislative staff. In August of 2021, he became its 48th president. Good morning, Speaker Saiki, and mahalo for your time this morning to be with us given this very busy session.
Good morning, Pamela. Thanks for inviting me. I'm always happy to be on the show. So.
Oh, we love having you. Thank you so much. I mean, you have been such a tremendous leader during COVID times, and now we're in the session, which, I know there was a planned opening, and then we kind of had to pull back again, and now we're opening again. But this is a very fast-paced legislative session, and we're at the first crossover of bills. That took place last week. So we wanted to hear a little bit more about your priorities. I know that you're looking at our economy, culture, and environmental justice. Can you share with our audience some of the legislation that you put forth and the status of these bills? And if you can comment also on legislation to increase the minimum wage.
Sure, Pamela. So as you know, our session began in the third week of January, and when we opened the session, our building, the Capitol building, was closed, but last Monday we reopened the Capitol building. So it's kind of great to see people beginning to, trickle in into the Capitol now.
Yes.
We are at the halfway point in the legislative session, which means that our committee hearings are going to be starting up in the House. They're going to be starting up this morning. So we will see, I'm sure, more people in the building. And we are slated to adjourn on May 5th. When we began the session in January, I gave an opening day speech. And, the theme of my speech was justice.
Yes.
And I just talked about three areas that I felt that we needed to improve. First is economic justice, environmental justice, and cultural justice.
Mm-hmm.
On the economic justice, I did discuss a minimum wage proposal, and the House has advanced legislation to increase the minimum wage to $18 an hour, like the Senate has. But the House bill differs in a couple of ways. First, the phase-in for the $18 wage is 2 years longer than the Senate's version.
Yes.
Or the House's proposal would take us through the year 2028 to reach $18. We've also increased the tip credit. And so for the food industry, for the restaurants, the tip credit is an important issue. Basically, the tip credit would increase under the House version to be about 15% of the hourly wage. The tip credit would equal about roughly 15% of whatever the hourly wage is. And the third part of our minimum wage bill is a proposal to increase the earned income tax credit.
Yes.
And this is a tax credit for working families. Our proposal is to expand the tax credit and to make it permanent. And we just feel really strongly, the House feels really strongly that, helping working families is just more than just the minimum wage increase, but also there needs to be some tax relief for these families. And the earned income tax credit is, a proven way of providing relief, not only on the state level, but also on the national level, on the federal level. So we'll see how this legislation goes. On environmental justice, our focus was on Red Hill. When we opened the session, the Navy had not yet announced the closure of Red Hill. That announcement, happened, as you know, a couple of weeks ago. Right. The House did take a hard position beginning in January that Red Hill needed to be closed, and we're just happy that the Navy, came to that conclusion and made that announcement.
We were very glad, and we do want to applaud the leadership and your leadership for taking such a strong stance, because, even though, I'm talking from Maui, I mean, we all watched in horror, and everybody could relate to what if this was happening on our island, and just felt the suffering. And then as people got back to their homes, then there was mold. I mean, it just was sort of one thing after another. So we deeply appreciate that stance. And I do want to share the bill that you championed was House Bill 2015 on the minimum wage, and there were different proposals, but that was the bill that we have been supporting because we felt that, as you've just shared, it was a much more comprehensive plan.
Yes, it was. There were a couple of other, parts that didn't make it into the bill. One was to adjust the minimum wage based on the CPI index. And the reason why I had proposed that was because I felt that maybe it's time for the legislature to get out of the business of setting the wage through statutes, through law, and instead to use some kind of a index. And the proposal was to use a 3-year rolling average of the CPI. And, it was meant to give employers some notice of what to expect every year as far as increases in the minimum wage. But that's, that portion is no longer alive. So.
It changed along the way. For those who aren't familiar with the legislative session, we're at this point where the bills that were the Senate bills were reviewed by the House and the House bills were reviewed by the Senate. Now they're crossing over. Reverse. Excuse me. Everybody was reviewing their own bills at the beginning, and then they crossed over.
Right.
So, my apologies. So, we're now at that point where they've crossed over, but along the way they get modified in different committees based on how many committees they're referred to. And so, changes are made. So it's really interesting. But at the Capitol website, you can track all of the bills and learn how, the different modifications made, and it's put up fairly quickly. So even if you miss the hearing, you can go back and see all the testimony that was submitted and the different changes that were made.
Yeah, and then Pam, just the other important point is, even though the Capitol is reopened,
yes.
The House as well as the Senate are holding committee hearings, both in person and through remotely. So people can participate either way. They can still submit testimony online and testify remotely. They don't have to be in person at the Capitol. We have a hybrid system in place.
Yes, and you do need to register online if you're going to testify in person. So you need to do that in advance. And you've got, I believe it's uniform, 1 minute. Is that correct? You've got 1 minute
really
to testify. Quick. Yeah, it's very quick.
Capital.hawaii.gov, so you can register.
Yes, thank you, because that's really important. And so submit your longer testimony because you're only going to have to 1 minute to sort of summarize. But it's important to testify in person.
Oh, I thought you meant the amount of time to register. The 1 minute, you're referring to the testimony time?
Yes.
Time limit?
Yes.
Yeah, so we, in the House, we discouraged the time limit.
Oh, good.
We feel like people should just be able to, give their testimony. We do ask people to summarize, and not repeat themselves. But we don't really impose strict time limits in the house.
Oh, good. Well, I've been rushing, so now I can take a little more time.
Summarize.
Well, I was summarizing, but I still encourage people, yes, send longer if you've got longer testimony. Send that in too, so they can read that, because you are going to need to summarize, as the speaker has said. I know one of the other things that you mentioned and is part of your top 3 priorities in justice was also cultural justice and expanding community-based efforts. And as we look at tourism management in a new way, it's very important that we protect our natural resources, not overcrowd different areas, and that you've been looking at implementation on each island to look at destination management action plans provided by HTA. I got to serve on that Maui committee, and it includes resetting tourism's directions to mitigate these negative impacts on each island. Can you share more comments on how you see that being addressed?
Sure. So I think it's pretty clear, and I think even for the tourism industry, I think, everybody understands that we need to better manage tourism, to ensure not just the environment and the health of the community, but also to ensure the health of the tourism industry. And, we are relying on the Hawaii Tourism Authority to develop the destination management plans, the DMAPs. It's something that, a few of our House members, such as Representative Nadine Nakamura from Kauai, has been really focused on. Kauai has, I think, kind of serves as the model for the DMAP implementation. There is a DMAP in place for the North Shore in Kauai, where, the state is really trying to manage the flow of tourism and the use of the resources there. I think the DMAP plan, coupled with the recent legislation that allows DLNR to charge fees for the use of state parks, I think hopefully will make a difference in protecting the environment and just managing the use of these kinds of resources. But I think that there's been so much focus and attention on this. I actually think it's very positive for all of us.
And you've had great examples. I know some of the early pilots were also on Oahu in terms of charging fees for some of the state locations. And you've been generating some revenue, and people have said the fees are reasonable. The users seem to be happy to pay it and almost have expected it because they see it in other areas. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like going to the national park, a federal national park. There's an entrance fee for the park, except I think for like Pearl Harbor doesn't have a fee, but when you go to like Haleakala, for example, or other kinds of parks in the mainland, you're asked to pay a vehicle entrance fee. So it's the same concept. Also on Oahu, you have the city Hanama Bay, where there's a vehicle fee that's in place. But even with that fee, Hanama Bay is just the demand is just so great, right? There's not enough parking stalls to accommodate everybody.
Yes.
So,
Hana.
You have to go at 6 a.m. kind of like when you wake up for Pam's show, Pamela's radio show.
But it's much prettier at Hanama Bay. Or Hana at that time of the morning. Much less crowded. Oh, that's so awesome. Well, again, I know a lot of people have said, over the years that they've questioned, maybe we should look at doing some of that. I know some of the early programs there was with like EO Valley, there was sort of some mixed reviews in the beginning. And the key thing is this is really a visitor's fee, right? Where it's still open to residents to come in. And so I want to make sure people understand this is you local residents can still go. Fees are on the visitors. And another thing is that we've seen and that we've appreciated about this model is instead of continuing to keep taxing them at the accommodations level, which goes up and up and up, and then when they compare our hotel and accommodations rates to other destinations, we look really high. But now by spreading some of these fees so we can use the funds to protect our environment and cultural resources, they're paying for their use, so they don't see it the same way.
Right.
It's sort of like
and,
their activity fees.
Yeah, what I tell the House members is that we have to be careful about constantly increasing the fees on hotel users.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as we all know, not all of the visitors are staying at hotels.
Right.
So there's a big chunk that's not paying the TAT, and so I think that's why the user-based fees can be way more effective.
Yeah, I think it's a great way, and on those that are in places that aren't paying the TAT, we do need to still look at enforcement and cracking down on some of these new things. And a big thing we're seeing here is these new camper vans, and I know there's legislation on that as well.
I had a bill on which died, by the way, but it was modeled after the Texas laws that allow individuals to bring a lawsuit to enforce a law. So my proposal was to allow individuals to bring, small lawsuits to challenge the unauthorized transient units.
Yes.
But it died because there's a lot of opposition to that. But I wanted to just float that proposal because I think the counties need help in enforcement.
We do. It's a big issue, and of course, enforcement's always costly, and we need more. I just was in a meeting with the mayor, and the issue is having enough enforcement officers, and we've got worker shortages across the board, including in government positions, and so it's a tough time. But I think, we're having these discussions at the right time. Like, what are the new solutions for these things, which is really exciting. And also, you were elected to serve as the president of the National Conference of State Legislators, known as NCSL, the first person from Hawaii and the first Asian American to be selected for the leadership position. And people don't necessarily know how big these positions are in these national organizations. So can you share a little bit about this organization and now your leadership role in it?
Sure. So NCSL is basically a clearinghouse, and all of the state legislatures and all of the territorial legislatures are members of NCSL. So that's, like 7,000 legislators throughout the U.S. It also serves legislative staff in all of these legislatures. And so it's the largest organization of state legislatures. It's also bipartisan, as you mentioned earlier. The headquarters is in Denver. And yes, I was finally sworn in as president in November. It got delayed because of the pandemic. But there are a couple of things that I was kind of happy about, as president. One was I was able to appoint Hawaii legislators to leadership positions in NCSL, to head up, but for example, the Waterland Committee, the Human Services and Health Committee, things like that. So we're giving opportunities to Hawaii legislators on this national level. And the second thing is we'll be taking up an initiative. I had asked NCSL if we could start up a committee on housing and homelessness.
Oh, great.
Surprisingly, NCSL didn't have a committee set up on this topic, but housing and homelessness is a national issue as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And it was important for NCSL to be, a clearinghouse on this topic. And I think, one thing that NCSL does is it brings the states together with the federal government. So the federal agencies like HUD could be a part of this. I'm kind of looking forward to that starting up.
I think that's a great effort. Maui Chamber of Commerce for a long time. I've now been with the organization for 16 years. And, of course, so much of our work was always based on the economy, economic diversification, of course, wanting to maintain a healthy community and sustainability as well. But over the years, affordable housing has just shot way up. And this year, when we had a meeting of Neighbor Island Chambers of Commerce, I asked everybody, is there any one of you, raise your hand, if affordable housing and rentals is not one of your top priorities? And of course, no hands went up because it's so important to us all. And businesses are, it's part of that high cost of living that, of course, people are wanting to see the minimum wage go up, but we've also got to deal with this high cost of living, and housing is such a key component of that, and we're so far behind. So to know that you're tackling that and homelessness on a national level is really important. And, I see it all every day. We're seeing, growing homelessness over here and really strong issues with our mental health system and more importantly, that lack thereof. And as someone who has a bipolar son, I've got so many stories on challenges that we face, and we just don't have the capacity to address all of the concerns and the problems people are facing. So to know that not only are you championing that here, and we're championing affordable housing and rentals in a big way on a county level as well as the state, trying to ring in on those different bills, that you're working with leaders across the nation on that, and that's really important. And I'm shocked. I'm kind of shocked they didn't have a committee on that.
Yeah, I was too when I learned about that. So it was, and the reason it came up was because some of the Hawaii legislators asked me, about it, why NCSO didn't have a committee on that. So that's how it started. It was Hawaii driven.
That's awesome. That's they always say everybody from Hawaii is innovators, and and you and the team certainly are. And I'm sure that now that you've got that going, that's one of the things about these national positions as well. When we have a chance to serve, we get to influence so many things, and it'll be something that'll live on long past your service there. It'll be something you've created that can carry on.
Yeah, and Hawaii is a driving force, so it's great.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Well, thank you so much. I know that those organizations, it takes a lot. They've got a lot of people. They've got a lot of people who are used to serving and like to be in those positions. And we're to come from a island state and to connect with all of those people and be elected to those positions is really quite a feat. So congratulations on that position, and thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to keep bringing in. We're at that time again crossover, so the bills have crossed over to the other house, and we want to encourage everybody, through the state legislature. This is your process. It's your house and your process, so tell legislators how you're feeling about all the different bills. And if you want to give them, Speaker Saiki, the website again where they can go to the website and URL. Yeah, and register to testify.
Yes, capital.hawaii.gov. Capital with an O.
Yes, that's true. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. Not like the capital letters, yes, with an O, but many, that's a common mistake. That's a good point. So thank you. Well, thanks again for being on the show. We're going to have you back again soon, and always appreciate having you on, and hope you have a beautiful day.
You too. Thanks, Pam, for inviting me today.
Thank you so much. Aloha. We'll be right back after a quick message from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines. Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal. And we're back. If you're just tuning in, this is Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. It's now my pleasure to welcome from the friendly Isle of Molokai, the president of the Molokai Chamber of Commerce, Robert Stevenson. Rob is a lifelong entrepreneur and small business owner. In 2009, he was appointed president and CEO of the Molokai Chamber of Commerce and is an active advocate for the local business community. He has become a well-respected leader in the community and has previously served on the board of Molokai Community Federal Credit Union, Destination Molokai Visitors Bureau, the Molokai Community Plan Advisory Committee, and as the past chair of the Molokai Planning Commission. He currently serves as the president of the Molokai Filipino Community Council and is a member of the Hawaii Tourism Authority Molokai Destination Management Action Plan Advisory Committee. Rob continues to play an active role in the legislative process in both Maui County and the state of Hawaii, and is a great partner to us. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good morning, Pam. I'm great, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to be here with you today. I want to just say before we start, too, this is such an important program that you have here, and it helps our business community connect with the listeners out there. So it's a great opportunity for us as a business community to become closer to our neighbors and friends and family members here in Maui County. So thanks for all the work that you're doing.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for that. That's so kind of you. This was started at a time when so much information was coming fast and furiously, and we all needed to talk to each other more. So, we're still doing it because we found out it's really working and we're enjoying it. But you have been a great partner to us, and you have been a great advocate for businesses on Molokai, but not just on Molokai, throughout the state. And but we wanted to check in because we've had you on the show before, but it's been a while. And now we're in the first quarter of 2022, and we saw, COVID begin in the first quarter of 2020. How are businesses on Molokai doing now?
Well, we're looking at good recovery at this point. I think what was interesting is through COVID, there were a lot of businesses that really thrived, and many of those were anchor businesses that people need to survive, like our grocery stores, our hardware stores, our infrastructure, and a lot of service providers. But the businesses that really did well were construction.
Yes.
So many people working from home, there's a lot of remodeling people did to accommodate a home office or just to make it more comfortable for them to live. And with the home values rising and the historically low interest rates, a lot of people were able to take advantage of the equity in their homes to cover their cost of renovations. And some of those were for home offices and stay at home, and some of those were just to make it a little bit more comfortable that we were all spending so much time at home. And real estate was a strong sector as well. Molokai lagged behind the rest of Hawaii's price increases, so there were still some value opportunities here that many took advantage of, including many of our local families.
Good.
But, it really was a great time, and it still is to some degree. But, as time has gone on, the prices have increased, and they're more than many local families could afford. So many local families were priced out of the market, but fortunately, those who were financially prepared, they were able to move quickly to meet those prices in the market.
Well, that's good because, we've been watching a lot of outside investment come in and scoop up a lot of properties, and we've certainly seen that here on Maui. So, and it's always that thing, right? We always keep talking about when we see crisis like this, we always remind people it's important also to save. So when these opportunities come up, you have a chance to jump in. And it's tough.
It really is. And that's where, we're all doing our best to try to help educate our families and our kids about being prepared and doing the work now, so when opportunities present themselves, a couple of years down the road, that you're ready to take advantage of them, because it's really difficult to start preparing when those opportunities are right in front of you.
Yeah, it is. And especially, I know for many people now, it seems like, we're just coming out of COVID and people are like, you want me to save now? We're still trying to recover. But, put something away, put a little something, just get started in the practice, and you can build it over time and teach our children
that. You sure
that.
Can.
Yeah, it's a great way to get going. Well,
it is. And, I'll tell you, one of the things that was interesting too is toward the end of the year and end of last year and the beginning of this year, our businesses were pretty optimistic because the recovery seemed like it was coming along, but then the Omicron variant hit and slowed that down a little bit. But now that things are clearing up and it looks like that wave has passed, things are really beginning to open up.
That's
and
awesome.
Mayor Victorino, as we all know, he repealed the county emergency proclamations, and I'm sure you and I and many other people are counting down the days until March 26th when the governor's emergency order is going to expire.
Absolutely.
I mean, and not you know, we're all looking forward to that opportunity, and it's not like it's going to be business as usual. We all know that.
Right.
But I think once that happens, we're going to be able to move a little bit more rapidly through this economic reset and recovery, and start to, instead of just recovery, start to actually grow and build and create wealth in our community.
Yeah. And, you know, it's still a decent time. I mean, we keep hearing about interest rates going up for different loans, but it's still way better than things we've seen in the past. I mean, if you look historically, the rates are still considerably low. So they are going up, but, you know, this is still a good time to make some moves and make some investments and plan strong moving forward. And we really want to encourage people, look at your business plans, get back to that business plan and really start working that plan. This is, you know, because we are coming out of this. And we just had on Maui live business after hours last week, and it was a blast. And people were just so excited to be, and we didn't have to wear a mask because we were outdoors. So we had so much fun. Everybody was just glad to be able to connect with each other. And just wait, we're just a few short days away from the mask mandate going away, and I think we're going to see a lot of celebrations. You've got anything big planned on Molokai?
You know, not personally, and I don't think that we do here. You know, on the island, people are still, you know, a little bit concerned about you know, having large events, and rightfully so. So I think it's just over time, when the timing is right. We don't know when that's going to be, but when the timing is right, events and different things are going to start to open up. So we'll just watch and see what happens with that.
That's awesome. Well, you know, we get it, and even some people, you know, in our group were saying, hey, I'm still going to wear my mask, which is totally fine. You know, we want everybody to be comfortable, and just because the mandates are off doesn't mean you can't still wear your mask if you so choose. So, you know, we want everybody to find their comfort level with these things.
Whatever's right for everybody. Everybody has their own feelings about what it is, and nobody's wrong and everybody's right, and we just all have to learn to respect that.
That's right. I agree. So you sat on the DMAP process for Molokai, the Destination Management Action Plans, and, you know, we're all looking at ways to better manage tourism. Can you share some of the things that Molokai is seeing and how they're looking at making shifts over there with managing tourism and what it means to the neighboring businesses?
Sure. Well, what we're seeing is, you know, tourism is coming back a little bit stronger and sooner than a lot of people thought. And much of what we're seeing are local Hawaii people coming over.
Oh, great.
You know, I think there's a lot of pent-up demand for vacations, but if you think about it, it's a lot easier and a lot less expensive to spend a half an hour on an airplane to come over to Molokai than it is to spend 6 hours on an airplane to go to the mainland somewhere, or even more. So we're seeing a lot of leisure travel coming from Oahu. We're seeing quite a bit of travel from Maui, people coming from Maui, but much of that are people coming over to work in some of the industries that are coming over, and a lot of government visitors, people that work for the county and that come over here to do work for the county. So we're seeing a little bit more leisure from Oahu and more business travel from Maui. But I was talking with the general manager of Hotel Molokai, Michael Drew, and he said that February was their best month yet, with an 85% occupancy at the hotel.
Oh, fantastic.
It really is. And that is, this month he's got 66% occupancy so far in March. And that's up 40% from last year.
That's great.
And one of the things that it really is great to see that people are coming and spending time here. And that helps with the jobs. It helps with the airlines. It helps with rental cars. Every time someone comes here, it infuses positive cash flow into our economy. And one of the things that we're seeing is people are booking last minute.
Okay.
And Michael Drew says that they're starting to get a lot of group bookings for the future. And that's always been a good, solid business for the hotel. And I happened to speak to one of the owners of Heroes Ohana Grill, which is the wonderful restaurant they have there at Hotel Molokai. And he said that they're doing better than they could have expected. And last week, they had the most guests that they've had since the pandemic.
Oh.
So things really are looking up.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's so fantastic. You know, last year when we were still having challenges and I had done an interview with a national news station, and we started this interview process in early February when things were still really down, and they asked me to give them names of different businesses, and everybody echoed the same thing. Oh, we're still really tragic. And then, of course, March came, and by the time they actually came to our island to film, the whole world had changed. You know, we have the saying, "What a difference March makes." So I'm glad to hear, you know, that March again is holding true for Molokai now as well as our island, that we're seeing the numbers go up and people are recovering.
They are, and one of the things that we're really looking forward to is Mokulele Airlines is the only airline that serves our island.
Yes.
And we're so grateful to them because they've been the lifeline that's helped not only our tourists come in, but helped our local families to be able to get back and forth to Oahu and Maui and all throughout the state, or even make connecting flights to the mainland when people are going for doctor's appointments, business appointments, and things like that. So we're very grateful to Mokulele. And we're excited because they're bringing in a larger aircraft.
I saw.
Believe it's, yes.
It was on the news last night.
I know. It's really something. It might not seem like much, but for all of us here, it's difficult. If you need to go to Oahu on a moment's notice or go to Maui, sometimes you look and there aren't any flights available.
That's
so
right.
You have to wait for a day or two. So booking travel the same day has been very difficult. For our local families. So we're hoping that the addition of these new aircraft will really open up some opportunities for travel and some possibilities to take a little bit of stress off of our folks here on Molokai.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, they're great airlines and, of course, the sponsor of the show. So we appreciate the recognition for them. They do an amazing job. Rob, we're actually...
And a shout-out...
Go ahead.
And I just wanted to give it a shout-out, to Richard Schumann, who works with Mokulele Airlines, and he has really been a great interface here. If you've got a problem, if you have a challenge with scheduling or anything, Richard Schumann, call him right up. He gives his cell phone, and he'll get right back to you with answers. He's been an invaluable brand ambassador for Mokulele Airlines.
He really is, and everything you said is so true. We've got a quick minute. Actually, we're a little bit over time, but wanted to talk about any issues at the legislature this session or the county council that you want to highlight that are things Molokai is concerned with.
Well, I think the biggest thing, is that we are all facing right now are the cost of doing business, and one of those is minimum wage. Talking with many of our businesses, they're already paying more than minimum wage. So,
right.
Minimum wage increase itself won't really have an immediate effect, but what it does affect is it affects the expectations of everyone else. It affects your employees who are making more than minimum wage. They'll want a raise too. And along with that is increase in taxes, unemployment insurance, workers' compensation insurance, health care, and everything else that's tied to wages. So we're all looking at that and just going to have to figure out how to deal with that as it moves forward. And it's a challenge to accommodate everybody's needs, but quite frankly, if a business can't afford the increases and it goes out of business, it doesn't matter what the minimum wage is if you don't have a job.
That's right.
So we really need to balance that and be thoughtful. And one of the other things is affordable housing. So it might be good to shift this conversation about wages and minimum wage in a new direction, because people need to be paid a fair wage for the work that they do. And we all want that for our local families. But if we focus the same amount of energy on building our economy and creating a favorable business climate for stable industries with good-paying jobs, we're all sure to come out ahead. And affordable housing is less about the cost of a house, and it's more about people having good-paying jobs that can support their ability to buy a house and support their family. So I don't think it's all one, it's not all the other, but there's somewhere in the middle. We need to have a comprehensive, balanced conversation on how we can help support our families
Very
to
well
where
said.
they can afford to live.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Rob, for joining us today. We loved having you on the show, and we'll have you back again soon.
Great, Pam. Thanks so much, and thanks to your whole team over there, and thanks for all the support you give to our chamber and our island of Molokai.
Oh, it's our pleasure. We love partnering with you, and you are such a great advocate. Thank you so much for all that you do.
My pleasure. Thanks, Pam.
You bet. Take care. All right. For those just tuning in, this is Business Matters brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And I'm so glad to welcome Doreen Forsberg. She is the account representative for People Ready. And she is, she is also part of Nakumu Hula for Halal Napua o Kaiva. And Doreen has been with People Ready, which has been formerly known as Labor Ready, since March 29, 2004. She was hired as a branch manager 3 years ago and was given the opportunity now to be an account representative. Currently a chair with the Maui Adult Daycare Center Fundraising Committee. She's just ending her term as chairwoman for the Council on Aging. She loves giving back and sharing with the community. Working with kapuna, keiki, animals, and more are her passion. Her greatest accomplishment is keeping her promise to her mom and keeping her family strong and unified. So aloha, Doreen. Good morning, and I'm so glad to have you.
Aloha, Pam. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So now you are, tell me about Nakumu Hula. You're the Kumu Hula for the Halal, Napua?
Yes. So I am the Nakumu Hula for my Halal, Napua Kaiva, and it was actually named after my mom.
Wow.
So we've been around for a little over 10 years now. First, at the encouragement of my nieces and other family members. And my brother teaches ukulele before pandemic started, the COVID. And he taught ukulele for free in Kihei, and he said, why not bring hula in the mix? So I started off away from the ukulele side of him for 4 years. Before we mixed both the hula and ukulele group together, and it's been fabulous. So,
so glad to hear.
Part of it.
And how big is the halal?
It's small right now due to all of the lockdowns for the last 2 years.
Sure.
I've kept my last class going. That's more of my advancement classes. There's currently 15 of us, or 15 hula dancers that I have. And we still meet every Sunday outside in the open. And we've been very fortunate that we were able to trust each other. And so
nice.
I can't wait till I can bring in more teaching. So that's exciting.
It is. We're getting there. We're getting closer.
We are definitely, and it's all about us trusting each other, right? Knowing that each of us take our own responsibilities. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to keep going, I think.
Yeah. That's, it is about coming together and working together on this. Absolutely. So, Doreen, you are also with People Ready, and tell us what People Ready is and the kind of services that you folks offer, because everybody's looking to hire someone right now. And we've got new job opportunities. So tell everybody a little bit about how you help.
So with People Ready, we are a staffing provider. We've been around for over 30 years all over the United States. On Maui, we've been on Maui for 18 years. In fact, this month will make 18 years. And as the road around us shifts, business models change, and everyone's life gets hectic. We've had to change our path so that we can make sure that we connect people and work. So that's our ultimate goal, help businesses run their business and at the same time helping people find work. So
absolutely.
I love what we do.
I know you're so good at it. You've been there for such a long time, and I know you're really passionate about it, which is exciting because we've been to some of your events when we've gotten to meet some of the workers that you've brought together and hired to pair them with businesses who have a need, and it's really a wonderful thing to see and to see how people grow through the process. So tell us what is available out there now. What are some of the highly popular positions and some of the trends that you're seeing?
Needs are based on, the project seasons and on demand. And right now, though, we're looking for hotel furniture renovation, laborers, carpenters, laborers, painters in all levels, warehouse staff, and processors.
Wow.
Yes. And it's still coming in. And as we feel the needs, more companies are starting to call. They're needing more help. And we just see an overwhelming, not only on Maui, but all of the islands.
Yeah, I mean, we constantly hear day by day, worker shortages. Everybody's out there seeking. Some people are paying bonuses. They're just desperately looking for workers and trying to keep workers employed. And workers are still dealing with some issues. Some of them still have some COVID-related issues that they're working on. Others are changing priorities, we're seeing, and looking at some career shifts, or maybe working less hours given things that they were able to do or work from home with COVID. So it's an interesting time to be in the worker partnership role as you're trying to kind of fulfill all these amazing needs. And again, as Rob from Molokai was just talking about, right, we're a lot of people were still doing renovations. So you've got people doing renovations. It was a great time when hotels were renovating and building during COVID. And then to hear the back end of the house, I hadn't really thought about the warehousing side and all the people needed to keep things moving because we've been seeing these supply chain issues. So thinking about the warehousing and the processing, that's really interesting. Is there a number of people is there a number that every month you're looking at these job openings and seeing them grow, or how is that getting tracked?
It's a unique time right now, and as we see more and more requests coming in, needs, positions, we're trying to, we're constantly recruiting, so there's never a moment where you can stop. We have to always be looking for workers, and our company actually monitors the amount of people that we bring on and the length of time that it takes to dispatch them out. And based on our reports, as soon as someone comes in, you have less than 48 hours to get them out on the job.
Oh, wow.
And as they're coming in, get them out. So that's our goal. Is as soon as they come in, we send them out. If it's a position that we may not have open that they're looking for, then it becomes my job to go out there and search for a business that can use that specific worker. So it works both ways, right? So, I'm looking for businesses that can use our services, and at the same time, someone can come in and look for work. And if it's not something we have open, then we go back out and say, hey, I've got this awesome worker ready to go. Can you use them?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, if you ever have workers that you're wondering placing, call me because we've got a lot of lists. But don't worry, we're sending them your way too. The people are every day. We're hearing more and more workers, and just every time I turn around, I can hear people on radio with new advertising, still looking. We're even looking at the Maui Chamber of Commerce for somebody to help run our office, and it's an interesting time, and there's so many opportunities. So glad to know though that you're not only are you able to recruit and bring them in, but you're able to get them out on the job within 48 hours. That's phenomenal.
Well, and it's also part of our report, right? End of the month report. And my boss will go, why was this worker waiting on the bench for X amount of time? Find them, and we're always reminded, right? There's recruiting, there's salespeople or account representative, and there's all of us that we play a part in it. And we think of it as a bicycle, right? You ride a bicycle, it takes the front and the back wheels to work, and the pedals to work. Someone has to steer, and the only way we can do it is work together. So we're constantly reminded of that.
You have a great team there, though, a really great team. So talk to people about where you're located, how people who are interested in working with your company connect with you, connect with an account rep, and where can they learn more about the business?
So we have a variety of ways to make sure that people can connect with us, and one of them is we're located in Kahului Industrial at 325 Hukeliki Street. We're the very first office, Suite 1. You can call the office at 808-877-7886. You can also view our website at peopleready.com, or if you have a cell phone, an iPhone, an Android, Samsung, you can go on your phone, download JobStack by either finding a job or finding workers. So all of that, you can connect with us.
So when you say downloading JobStack, what is JobStack? I'm not familiar with JobStack.
JobStack is a mobile app that allows us to connect with workers that we call associates or companies that are needing workers. By downloading either JobStack, if you're a worker needing work, you go on your phone, look for JobStack, download it. You go through our application process. Upon completing that, it also asks what type of work you're looking for and asking you for your experiences that you have. Once that is all completed, you'll be contacted by the location where you're applying at. So you can download JobStack, but you can be on any island, and you will still be contacted with the right branch that service that island. And then you can also, and the fun thing is that once you download JobStack, you complete our application process, you can immediately see all the different jobs that we're offering based on what you're looking for and your experiences.
Doreen, that is.
So, say for instance.
Doreen, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to end there because the show's gonna end. But thank you so much for being on today. We've loved having you on the show. So go to People Ready and look for JobStack. Download that great app. We want to thank everybody for joining us on Business Matters today, which is sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm Pamela Tumpop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing all blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day.